So a very warm welcome to everybody back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a game between former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik against Lajos Portisch. And this really is a beautiful game by Botvinnik. This was in 1968, so Botvinnik was quite a bit older than Portisch. He was on the backside of his career at this stage, but he showed that he still had those magical skills that he had all those years before. So let's get in. He starts off by playing c4, and if you know Botvinnik, he has the Botvinnik English, and so he plays the English here. So after c4 we had e5, knight c3, knight f6, and then after this we had g3, with the idea with the Botvinnik English is to get your pawns onto the light squares in here, and you don't actually bring your knight there, you bring your knight to here on e2 with the idea of pushing your pawn and launching a kingside attack. So after that we had d5, stopping this ID. Then we had c takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop g2, bishop e6, knight f3, attacking the pawn. So knight c6 was played to protect the pawn. We had castles, knight to b6, d3, bishop e3, a3, a5, stopping the idea of pushing the pawn on b4. Then we had bishop e3, and then we had castles. So quite an even position here. 10 moves in, and let's see how the game progressed. So we had, first of all, what would you go for here if you were Botvinnik? Well, he decides to go to knight to a4. We all probably have heard that the term knights on the rim are dim, but he wanted to trade off, and so he trades. Portisch decides to trade off. Then we had bishop to d5, and then we had rook to c1, rook to e8, and then we got rook to c2 with the idea that Botvinnik wants to double up on the c file and gain control and attack that pawn that's behind this knight. Then we had bishop to f8 by Portisch, rook a to c1, and then we get knight to b8. So here Portisch is saying, you can have my pawn. Now, as you can see on the screen, it's a blunder. But why is it a blunder? What's Portisch? What's his idea here? He's trying to lure Botvinnik into taking this pawn. But why? Well, we see the game. Botvinnik decides, well, I'm going to take if you're going to give it to me. And here we see Portisch's idea. He plays bishop to c6. Now, our rook is in big trouble here. So what can we do here? What would you play here? What do you think Botvinnik played here? Because you're in trouble. You could think, well, maybe you might play here to try and protect this. You know, there's lots of things you think you might play, but you're under trouble because once we get the rook in here, things are not looking good. So in the game, he decides to play rook to c6. Let's get rid of that bishop. So then we had pawn takes, and again, we see that Botvinnik is left with a choice. What's he going to do? His only safe square is here on b7. He can't take the pawn because knight captures, can't go here because captured, can't go here, can't go here. So what do you think Botvinnik done here? He comes up with a brilliant move. Can you see the brilliant move on the board? Well, Botvinnik plays the rather wonderful rook takes f7, sacrificing his rook for a pawn. So does Portisch take? Well, no, Portisch actually plays h6. Why does he play h6? Well, he recognizes the strength of the move of rook to f7, because if king takes, what happens? Well, then we get check, queen check, and let's say if you decided to block with the queen, can you see the problem with that? Well, you might have spotted it if your tactics are on point. Knight to g5 check, open up a discovery and capturing the queen. So that couldn't have done. So If after c4 king went to g6, king would have continued with check on e4, king to f7, knight to g5 check. If the king goes back to g8, we got checkmate, so that's not going to happen. If we get g5, if we go to g8, and if the king decides to go here, get another check, and the line continues. It's a mate in 8 from here, but either way you look at the game is completely winning at this stage. So this is why we see Portisch didn't take the pawn, or didn't take the rook, but rather plays h6. So what happens after that? Well, now Botvinnik brings back the rook to b7. Then we get c8 attacking the rook. So does he decide to protect the rook here? No, he decides to check first, c4. We get h8. And we can see how confident Botvinnik is here, because you think, okay, now we need to retreat this rook to somewhere and we'll continue on the game. But Botvinnik doesn't decide to do that. Can you see the move that Botvinnik decides to make to continue the attack? He plays the rather unbelievable knight to h4. Now, knight to h4 is not a brilliant move or anything like that, but just, I mean, how they spot these tactics, of course, lining up the idea of getting his knight to here and checking the king and all sorts of nasty. So the queen, Portisch, says, you know what, I'm going to take the rook. So now Portisch is a complete rook up, yet Botvinnik is completely winning the game. Why is he winning the game? Because we see we have check, but knight to g6, then we king to h7, then we have the lovely bishop to e4, meaning that there's going to be the discovery check. So then we get bishop to d6 by Portisch, and after that we get our discovered check. We get knight takes on e5. Portisch decides to play g6. After g6, takes with the bishop by Botvinnik, so it's check, and king goes to g7. Now here, there's one move left, another brilliant move by Botvinnik, and after this move, Portisch just resigns. So can you see the move? I'll give you a moment. It's bishop takes h6, check. Brilliant move, sacrificing the bishop. Why is it brilliant? Well, it was at that point where Portisch just resigned, but the reason it was brilliant, because if you take on h6, you get queen check, king goes up, you get queen check again, x-raying the queen, meaning you're going to win the queen. So all kinds of nasty here. So rather wonderful play. Great game by Mikhail Botvinnik. Definitely would recommend checking out more of these games, and we'll have some more games in future. But if you enjoyed the game, please like and give a subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.